On the night Officer Jenna Cole nearly died, it wasn't backup that saved her. It wasn't her training, her weapon, or the badge she'd sworn to protect. It was a homeless man she had almost overlooked, a stranger drenched in rain, standing in the shadows with nothing left to lose. His warning came seconds before the knife flashed, before the alley erupted into chaos that would change both their lives forever. What Jenna didn't know that night was that saving her was only the beginning, because the man the city ignored would soon become the one person she couldn't forget. The first time Officer Jenna Cole heard his voice, it cut through the rain sharper than any siren. "Don't talk," the man rasped from the shadows. "Just listen." Jenna froze with her cruiser door half open, one boot on the wet pavement of the Silverford back alley. The drizzle had turned into a needling curtain of cold. Street lights smeared into long, blurry streaks on the glistening asphalt. She had come here for something simple, a noise complaint behind a dive bar. In her mind, it was supposed to be a quick check, a few words, back in the car. Instead, a ragged silhouette leaned against a brick wall, wrapped in layers of soaked fabric that might once have been a coat. His beard was overgrown, his hair long and tangled, water dripping from the tips. At his feet, a bony dog with patchy fur stood rigid, teeth bared in a low growl that vibrated in the small space. Jenna's hand went instinctively to her gun. "Sir, step away from the wall and show me your hands," she ordered, voice steady, every muscle clenched and ready. He didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't babble like to someone high or drunk. His eyes lifted to meet hers, and for a second, something about that gaze made her hesitate. They weren't wild. They were clear, tired, but focused, like he'd been watching the world too long from the outside. "Behind you," he whispered. "Don't turn all the way. Just listen." Jenna's pulse jumped. Training told her to control the scene, to assert authority, to not be manipulated. But the dog's growl deepened, and the alley suddenly felt narrower, darker, more alive. She shifted slightly so her back pressed against the cool metal of the cruiser, giving her a sliver more cover, her hand tightening on the grip of her weapon. "There's no one behind me," she said. "I just got here." "I know," the man answered. His voice was rough but steady. "He saw you pull up, been sitting in that dark spot, waiting, been watching him all night." Jenna's eyes narrowed. Rain tapped a jittery rhythm on metal trash cans stacked along the brick wall behind her. She let her flashlight slide up and out, its beam cutting through the drizzle to the far end of the alley. Water dripped, garbage bags glistened, a metal dumpster loomed. For a moment, nothing moved. "Police!" she called, raising her voice. "Step out where I can see you." Silence. She held her breath, listening past the rain. Somewhere in the distance, a horn blared. Somewhere closer, water gurgled through a clogged gutter. The dog's growl vibrated in her bones, then she heard it. The faint scrape of a shoe on wet pavement. A small, rapid shuffle. Not animal, human, nervous. The man in rags lifted his hand, slowly, carefully, like he knew every twitch could get him killed. "Right at the corner," he murmured, "against the far wall. You don't see him until he moves." Jenna angled her flashlight where he pointed, the beam crashing into the darkness like a blade. Shadows jumped, a shape jerked, flinched from the light, and then someone exploded out of it. A figure lunged from behind the dumpster, sprinting straight toward her. All she saw was a hood, a blur of black, and a sudden glint in his hand that caught the light. Knife. Her gun cleared the holster as her heart slammed against her ribs. Time fractured. Her boots slipped slightly on the slick ground, throwing off her balance for half a second that felt like an eternity. "Don't shoot!" The homeless man's voice ripped from the wall. "He's got a knife!" Jenna didn't understand why those words made her hesitate, but they did. Maybe it was the raw panic in his tone, the dog's sudden bark, sharp and frantic. She sidestepped, trying to create space, her weapon trained on the moving blur. The attacker barreled forward, eyes wild, blade flashing as he swung toward her chest. She started to squeeze the trigger. The ragged man moved first. He launched himself off the wall like he'd been wound tight and finally snapped free. Layers of wet fabric flew as his body crashed into the attacker from the side. The knife arm jerked at the last second, the blade slicing nothing but cold air where her heart would have been. All three of them went down in a violent tangle. Water exploded under them, puddles soaking through clothes. The dog lunged, teeth sinking into the attacker's sleeve, growling and thrashing, pulling his arm off target again and again. "Drop the knife!" Jenna shouted, circling fast, trying to find a clean shot that wouldn't send a bullet into the wrong body. The attacker cursed, swinging his elbow backward into the homeless man's ribs. Jenna flinched at the sickening thud. The man grunted in pain, but refused to let go of the arm with the knife. Fingers white with effort, face twisted in a grimace. Rain fell harder, drumming on dumpsters, pavement, and bone. The alley turned into a blur of limbs and shadows, every second on the edge of disaster. Jenna realized she had no clear target. One wrong shot could end the life of the only person actually trying to help her. "Let go!" the attacker shouted hoarsely, trying to jerk free. "I can't!" the ragged man gasped. "You're not touching her!" The knife flashed again, passing inches from his cheek. Jenna's chest tightened. One slip, one bad angle, one unlucky movement. Her mind raced. She needed control, needed a break in the chaos, needed something that would shock the attacker without turning the alley into a crime scene she'd replay in nightmares for the rest of her life. She raised her gun skyward and fired. The blast shattered the night, louder than thunder in the narrow space. The attacker flinched, his grip on the knife faltering. That heartbeat of fear was all the homeless man needed. With a raw, desperate yell, he twisted the attacker's wrist, ripping the knife free and hurling it away. It skidded across the pavement and stopped near Jenna's boot. She kicked it backward, far out of reach, then dove in, dropping her weight onto the attacker's shoulder. The dog kept hold of his sleeve, snarling. "Hands behind your back," she shouted. "Now!" The attacker fought, but the fight was leaking out of him. Between the man's grip, the dog's teeth, and Jenna's weight, resistance turned into groaning and half-hearted jerks. She snapped the cuffs on with a final metallic click that echoed like the end of a sentence. Only when it was over did she notice how hard she was breathing. Rain hammered her hat brim, slid down the back of her neck. Her hands trembled slightly as she holstered her gun. The attacker lay face down, cuffs digging into his wrists, cursing under his breath. Jenna's eyes went to the man who had thrown himself at a knife for her. He was on his side, breathing in ragged pulls, blanket of rain flattening his hair to his forehead. Rusty pressed against his ribs, whining softly now, tail twitching. "Hey." Jenna knelt beside him, scanning quickly for blood. "Are you hit?" He winced as he sat up slowly, one arm wrapped around his ribs. His coat was torn, mud streaked across his shirt, but she saw no deep crimson spreading through the fabric. "Just old bones and bad luck," he rasped. "You okay?" The question stunned her. He was the one on the ground, chest heaving, dog still shaking from adrenaline, and his first thought was her. "You could have died," she said. Her voice didn't sound like hers. It sounded younger, shaken, stripped of professional distance. He shrugged one shoulder, rain dripping from his beard. "So could you." No sarcasm, no bravado, just fact. She stared at him. A minute ago, she had seen him as a potential threat, a problem, an unknown. Now, kneeling in a puddle beside him, she had to admit a truth that made her deeply uncomfortable. She would still be standing here if he hadn't spoken up, if he hadn't warned her, if he hadn't thrown his body between her and that knife. Sirens grew louder in the distance, backup finally closing in. The alley flashed red and blue as squad cars turned into the street. "Do you need a hospital?" she asked, forcing her training back into place, clinging to procedure because everything else felt too big. His eyes flicked away for the first time. Fear, sharp and familiar, flashed through them. "No hospitals," he said quickly. "I'm fine." The lie was obvious, but the fear was louder than the pain. Jenna hesitated, torn between protocol and something more human, something that had nothing to do with policy and everything to do with the way he had said, "You're not touching her." She swallowed, stood, and went to the trunk of her cruiser. When she came back, she dropped a folded blanket into his lap. "Take it," she said. He looked at it like it was something fragile and dangerous. Then he nodded once and wrapped it around his shaking shoulders. Rusty shifted closer, nestling into the fabric. When other officers arrived, glancing between the cuffed attacker and the soaked, homeless man, one of them asked, "Who took him down?" Jenna didn't hesitate. "He did," she answered, nodding toward the man on the ground. The alley went quiet in a different way, not from fear, from disbelief. The homeless man shifted, uncomfortable under the sudden weight of their stares. He didn't bask in it, didn't puff up. He just looked like someone who wanted to disappear again. Before he could, Jenna stepped closer. "What's your name?" she asked. He blinked like he hadn't had to answer that question in a long time. "Lucas," he said quietly. "Lucas Grant." She repeated it in her head, locking it in. Later that night, when the forms were filled, the attacker taken away and the alley empty again, Jenna sat alone in her cruiser, rain streaking her windshield, replaying every second. Lucas's voice, Rusty's growl, the knife, the gunshot, the way a man everyone stepped around had just saved her life, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Driving back to the station, one thought wouldn't leave her alone. How many times had she walked past someone like him and never really looked? If you were in Jenna's place that night, Would you have trusted the warning of a homeless man standing in the shadows? Yes or no? For 3 days after the attack, Jenna couldn't shake the image of Lucas Grant disappearing into the rain with Rusty pressed against his leg. She had written her report, answered her captain's questions, and tried to return to the rhythm of patrol. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lucas tackling the man with the knife. Saw Rusty lunging with that desperate loyalty only dogs like him seem to understand. Most of all, she saw Lucas's face when he said no hospitals. A flash of fear so old and ingrained, it felt like it was carved into him. By the fourth night, she broke. She found herself driving back through the same stretch of Silverford, letting instinct guide her. She checked the alley. Empty. She circled 2 blocks. Nothing. She pulled into the parking lot of an abandoned laundromat where people on the streets sometimes sheltered from the wind. Still nothing. But she kept driving, headlights sweeping the dark edges of the city where most people never looked. She told herself she wasn't searching. She was just checking on a witness, a civilian, a man who had helped her. But deep down, she knew the truth. She didn't want him to fade back into the shadows like he'd never existed. It was near midnight when Rusty found her first. A sudden bark sliced through the hum of the patrol car's engine. Jenna braked hard. 2 glowing eyes stared from behind a row of trash bins. Then the dog trotted out, fur damp but tail wagging once, tentatively, as if remembering her. "Rusty," she murmured, stepping out. From behind him, a figure shifted. Lucas leaned weakly against the brick wall, one arm wrapped around his ribs. The blanket she had given him was draped over his shoulders but soaked, its edges dark with rain and dirt. His eyes lifted when he realized it was her. For a moment, he looked almost embarrassed to be found. "Thought you'd stopped looking," he rasped. Jenna stepped closer. "I never stopped." Lucas let out a small breath that fogged in the cold air. Rusty nudged his leg as if urging him to let go of whatever fear he was holding. "Sit," Jenna said gently, guiding him toward a low concrete step. He lowered himself slowly, jaw clenching in pain. "You should have gone to a doctor," she said. "You're hurt worse than you admitted." "I heal," he muttered. "Been worse." "That doesn't mean you should live that way." Lucas didn't answer. His eyes wandered down the street, watching the flow of headlights and distant neon. She didn't push him. Some silences weren't avoidance. They were memories wrapped in barbed wire. She handed him a sandwich and a bottle of water. He hesitated only a moment before accepting. Rusty sat obediently at his feet, eyes hopeful for crumbs. They ate mostly in quiet, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt strange, natural in a way she hadn't expected. Finally, Jenna asked, "Why did you help me that night? You could have run. Most people would have." Lucas wiped rain from his brow with the corner of the blanket. "Most people don't see me, but you did. You didn't reach for your gun right away. You listened." "That's all it took?" she asked softly. His eyes flickered upward. "When the world stops seeing you, a single person looking feels like a lifeline." Something inside her tightened, a slow pull she couldn't name. Over the following weeks, seeing Lucas became part of her routine. Not officially, not in any way she would have logged on a report. But she found reasons to check the alleys near the old laundromat, reasons to walk the side streets behind the strip mall, reasons to slow her cruiser near the underpass where he sometimes rested with Rusty curled against him. Some nights she brought food, other nights just conversation. And slowly, Lucas began to trust her enough to reveal pieces of who he used to be. A construction worker, a brother, a man who had lost everything after a workplace accident and medical debt that spiraled beyond control. A man who left home because it hurt too much to stay and hurt the people he loved. His voice always shook a little when he spoke about the past, like the words themselves were heavy. One night he mentioned speaking with a comfort Jenna hadn't heard from him before. "I used to read a lot," he said. "History, literature, picked up a few languages back when I thought my life had direction." "You still have direction," she answered quietly. He laughed, but it wasn't cruel. "Out here, direction is just staying alive until morning." She didn't argue, but the truth stung. Then came the evening that changed everything. Jenna was responding to a missing child call at Brookline Park. Parents were frantic. Officers combed the area. Flashlights swept through playground equipment and wooded edges. Hours passed with nothing. The cold began to settle into Jenna's bones, tightening her chest with dread. Then Rusty came barreling out of the trees. Jenna spun. "Rusty?" Lucas emerged seconds later, breathless, his coat unbuttoned and clinging to him from sweat and rain. "He's found something," he said. "He wouldn't stop pulling me." Jenna followed them to an old maintenance shed near the far end of the park. Rusty scratched frantically at the door, whining. "It's locked," she said. Lucas braced his shoulder, pushing hard. The wood groaned but didn't move. Another try. Another. Jenna stepped beside him, throwing her weight against the door. Together, they forced it open. Inside, curled in the corner, was a trembling little boy. When Jenna carried him out into the air, the parents' cries cracked the night open. Officers rushed in. The boy clung to her, shivering. Lucas stepped back, watching from the edge of the trees, as though afraid to be pulled into the center of everything. Rusty stayed glued to his leg, proud and alert. As paramedics lifted the child into the ambulance, Jenna turned and looked at Lucas, really looked. At his soaked clothes, the bruise blooming beneath his eye, the exhaustion in his posture, the quiet steadiness in his gaze. He started to walk away. "Lucas," she called. He froze. "People need you." His breath hitched. "Not just me, all of us. You have value, you have purpose. Don't let the world tell you otherwise." Lucas swallowed hard and didn't speak. But something changed in his expression. A flicker of something fragile and painful and deeply human, a spark of possibility trying to surface through years of darkness. The next day, Jenna walked into her captain's office and asked for something she'd never asked before. "I want you to meet someone." He frowned. "Is this about that homeless guy you keep mentioning?" "It's about a man who saved my life," she said firmly. "And last night, he helped save a child." Her captain studied her a long moment. "Bring him in." When she told Lucas, he stiffened, panic crossing his face at the idea of stepping into a police station. But she stayed at his side as they walked through the doors. Rusty padded beside them, tail low but steady. Under fluorescent lights, Lucas looked out of place, a ghost from the streets trembling in the world of order and authority. But Jenna stood with him as though he belonged. Her captain listened, really listened. When Lucas translated a few phrases from a case file involving a Spanish-speaking victim, the captain's eyebrows rose. "You speak multiple languages?" he asked. Lucas looked down. "Some. A man like you," the captain said slowly, "could do real work here. Part-time, community liaison, interpreter." Lucas stepped back, his breath quickened. "No, I'm not. I can't." Jenna touched his arm lightly. "You can." He closed his eyes. For a moment, she thought he would run, but then he whispered, "I'll try." That was the beginning. By the end of Lucas's first week helping at the station, even the skeptics began to watch him differently. He was quiet, reserved, but when he spoke with victims who feared uniforms or didn't speak English well, they relaxed. When officers needed insight about neighborhoods most had never walked, he gave it with simple clarity. When Rusty trotted through the station wagging his tail, tension in the building softened. Jenna saw it all with a fierce, quiet pride she tried to hide. She had seen something in Lucas the night he saved her, something the world had spent years trying to bury. He was finally starting to see it too. If you were in Jenna's shoes, would you have fought for Lucas to be given a second chance after everything he had survived? Yes or no? The weeks after Lucas started working part-time at the Silverford Police Department changed him in ways Jenna could see long before he ever admitted it. His posture grew straighter, his voice steadier. He stopped flinching every time someone in uniform walked by. Even Rusty seemed different. His tail held higher, as if he too sensed that they were no longer drifting souls surviving on the edges of the city. But progress was never a straight line. One rainy evening, long after most officers had gone home, Jenna found Lucas standing alone outside the station, staring at his reflection in the darkened window. Rusty lay curled at his feet, chin resting on his paws. "You're still here," Jenna said softly as she approached. Lucas didn't look at her at first. When he finally turned, she saw conflict pulling at every line of his face. "I don't know how to fit in," he murmured. "I talk to people here. I help. But when I go home, it feels like the streets are still pulling me back." "You're not who you used to be," Jenna said. "You've changed." His eyes flickered with doubt. "People like me don't get new lives." "That's not true," she whispered. "You're already living yours." Before he could respond, Rusty suddenly perked up, tail thumping once as if sensing the shift between them. Jenna smiled slightly. Even the dog could feel what Lucas refused to acknowledge. Not long after that night, something happened that would force Lucas to see himself the way the city was beginning to see him. A group of teenagers had been causing trouble near an abandoned warehouse, tagging walls, breaking windows, and intimidating anyone who passed by. One evening, a frightened shop owner came running into the station, saying a fight had broken out and someone had been hurt. Jenna and two officers raced to the scene, only to find the confrontation escalating fast. And right in the center of it, holding two boys apart, was Lucas. Rusty barked and growled, trying to keep the rest of the teens at bay, But it was Lucas's voice that cut through the calm but commanding. "Enough," he said. "You don't want to do this. This isn't who you are." The boys, angry and scared, tried to pull free, but Lucas refused to let them hurt themselves or each other. His eyes burned not with judgment, but with something far heavier. Understanding, experience, a warning born from his own scars. When Jenna stepped in to help, the teens finally backed down. The police secured the scene and escorted the group home. As soon as the situation quieted, Jenna turned to Lucas. "What were you thinking?" she demanded, though her voice wavered with a mix of fear and pride. "I was thinking," Lucas answered, rubbing his bruised arm, "that nobody ever stepped in for me when I needed someone. Those kids were two bad decisions away from losing their futures." Jenna stared at him. "You could have gotten hurt." "I've been hurt before," he said, "but this time it mattered." For a long moment, they just looked at each other, the rain drying on their jackets as the city hummed quietly around them. It was the first time Lucas didn't shrink from Jenna's gaze. It was also the first moment Jenna realized how deep her feelings had grown. In the following months, Lucas's presence at the station became part of the rhythm of daily life. Officers who once ignored him now asked for his perspective. Victims who felt invisible trusted him instinctively. Neighborhood kids learned his name. Community centers invited him to speak. The story of the homeless man who saved a police officer and later helped find a missing child spread far beyond Silverford. People began leaving blankets, food, and thank you notes at the station addressed to Lucas and Rusty. One afternoon, the mayor herself visited the department to honor Lucas publicly for his bravery and service. Lucas stepped onto the small stage with his usual nervous hesitation, Rusty trotting proudly beside him. But when he looked out at the small crowd, saw Jenna standing near the front with her hands clasped tightly, something in him eased. He spoke quietly, but his voice didn't shake. "I am not a hero," he said. "I am just someone who was given a chance when I thought I had none left. I am someone who was seen again after being invisible for too long. And if there's anything I've learned, it's this. A single act of kindness can pull a person back from the edge. It did for me. It can for anyone." The room fell silent for a long breath before applause rose and filled the hall. Rusty barked once, as if adding his own approval. That night, after the ceremony, Jenna invited Lucas to her apartment for dinner. Lucas showed up clutching a small bouquet of supermarket flowers, his hands trembling like a man who wasn't sure he deserved to be there. When Jenna opened the door, the vulnerability in his eyes nearly broke her. "They're beautiful," she said softly, taking the flowers. "I wasn't sure if," Lucas began. "You're welcome here," Jenna said before he could finish. Inside, they shared a simple meal, laughing more than either of them expected. Rusty slept at their feet, warm and content. When the dishes were finally cleared, Lucas sat quietly for a moment, eyes tracing the edges of the room. "I never thought I'd sit at a table again," he said. "Not like this." Jenna sat across from him. "You earned your place here." He swallowed, and for the first time since she met him, he didn't look away. "You changed my life, Jenna." "You changed your life," she whispered. "I just walked beside you." There were no more words after that. None were needed. Several months later, with steady work and the unwavering presence of Rusty and Jenna, Lucas moved into a small apartment of his own. It wasn't grand, the walls were plain, the furniture was secondhand, but to him it was more than a home. It was proof that the world had not shut its doors on him forever. Jenna helped him unpack, hanging a small framed photo of Rusty on the wall. When she stepped back, Lucas looked around slowly, eyes glassy with something fragile and almost unbelieving. "I never thought I'd have this again," he murmured. "You have more than a home," Jenna said gently. "You have a future." He crossed the room in 2 steps and pulled her into a quiet, steady embrace. For a long time they stood like that, Rusty watching from his new bed, tail wagging lazily. Lucas had walked out of the shadows that night in the alley believing he had nothing left to give. But he had found courage, purpose, and a place in a world that once forgot him. And somewhere along the way, he had found something even rarer. He had found people who chose him. As Jenna left his apartment that evening, Lucas stood at the doorway, Rusty pressed happily against his leg. For the first time in years, Lucas wasn't looking toward dark alleys or cold sidewalks. He was looking toward tomorrow. If this story touched your heart, would you want to see more stories of second chances and unexpected heroes? Yes or no? I would love to know what you felt while reading this and what you think about Lucas's journey. If you enjoyed the story, please comment below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Tell me which country you are watching from, and feel free to share this story with someone who might need a little hope today.